Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Enzo Maresca says we can build something special after the 3-1 defeat to Bayern Munich last night. The PFA are investigating the treatment of Raheem Sterling and Axel Disasi, and the King, Jose Mourinho, will return to Stamford Bridge at the end of the month. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. If you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, we are on the road to 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. You can also use the hype button, which is a new YouTube feature which helps pushes these videos out to a bigger audience. Kicking things off, Bobby Vincent reported what Enzo Maresca said on the defeat to Bayern Munich last night. He said, I think the first 20 minutes we started very well. Created 2 chances without conceding nothing. Then we conceded a goal we can avoid. The dynamic then changed a little bit. The goal we scored, it was a tough decision from the referee because he could maybe judge a different way. He goes on to say, I'm happy with the performance because we knew how difficult it would be to come here. Overall, I think we competed very well. To be honest, the players were already aware of how difficult this competition is. You cannot make mistakes in the way that we have done. We can learn a lot. I've just said that to the players. He then talks about Chelsea's inexperience in the Champions League. He says, in terms of experience between them and us, there is a huge difference because of the games they have played, because of the age. We competed in the right way in this stadium against this team. Maresca then speaks on the pressure of the Champions League. He says, we still have 7 games. I don't know how many games we need to win, how many we can afford to lose, but we have 7 more games, so there are plenty of points. Enzo Maresca then speaks about the Tar red car appeal. He says, for me, it's a red card. When there is no intention to go for the ball, when the intention is to kick another player, why is it not a red card? The referee said it was not aggressive enough. If the intention is to do that, then it is a red card. For me, there is not any doubt. He then finishes by saying, I have a feeling we can build something special from this defeat. Nizar Kinsella then reported what Cole Palmer said on TNT Sports. He said, we're not coming here to be a learning curve. DAZN Football then reported what Cole Palmer said in their interview, and he said, I thought we played well. We've shown we deserve to play here. The 3 goals we conceded were our own fault. We had chances. We broke them down well, but some chances were missed. They're a good team. We deserve better than what we got. Now, I've seen so many different reactions to last night's game. I'm very disappointed that we lost in the way that we did, but I do think there is a lot of positives to take from last night's game. I genuinely do. Some people are saying they're ashamed of the performance. Some people are saying it's embarrassing how we got there. The team are a joke. Maresca's tactics are a joke. The lineup was a joke. They're just going in on the players, and I get it. As fans, we get very angry, very frustrated when things don't go our way. But the reality is, it's the first game of the Champions League. A lot of these players are relatively new to this competition, if never played in it. That's not an excuse, but it is a factor that we did need to step up to the occasion. And I totally agree with what Maresca and what Cole Palmer has said. I thought that the first 20 minutes, we played very, very well. We were cutting Bayern Munich open at times, and we did miss a few chances. The Enzo Fernandez one is the one that sticks out the most. But we were going toe-to-toe with Bayern Munich. It looked like we set up very similarly to how we did against PSG. We had Gusto bombing up and down that right space, and it worked very well with the long ball distribution. Sanchez's distribution was on point when he was playing those longer balls. There was a couple of passes that were a bit wayward, but it looked like miscommunication between the players and Sanchez rather than Sanchez just kicking it out of play. There were a lot of positives to take from that. However, Bayern Munich are a very experienced team. They've played in this competition a lot. They've got some world-class players. And what happened over time is Bayern Munich got their momentum and they got their rhythm down to Chelsea making individual errors. Self-inflicted wounds. Self-inflicted wounds is exactly the best way to sum it up. Joe Cole said that on TNT. Because I feel like the performance, like I said, we went toe-to-toe with Bayern Munich for large spells of that game. The second half is different, and I will speak about that. But in that first half, we were the masters of our own downfall. The own goal, all right, it happens, right? Elise's done well to beat Cucurella, which is very rare. We know how good Cucurella has been, but Elise he had him on toast for most of last night. Let's be real. He makes some space. He cuts the ball in, sticks a fantastic ball across the 6-yard box at knee height. It hits Trevor Chalobah. It goes in. That's just unfortunate. Those types of goals happen all around the world, all the time in football games. That just happens, right? So, yes, it's a shame that it goes in that way, but we should have dealt with the problem out in the wider areas and then had some sort of cover. We didn't deal with it. The penalty was self-inflicted. It was a poor challenge from Caicedo. I saw it in real time, didn't like it, saw the replay, didn't win the ball. People were arguing whether, if it's a fair challenge or not. It's a silly challenge to be making on a player like Harry Kane, who's an intelligent footballer, who has used his body to spin Caicedo and put himself between the ball and his man. It's a penalty. Harry Kane's not going to miss that penalty. So that's 2 goals. 2 goals in 5 minutes in the first 25 minutes, right? Then the game started to change. Bayern Munich then found their rhythm. They found their momentum. They started really pushing on us. And then we really struggled to adapt for a 5-minute period of like, okay, what do we do now? I felt like we fought our way back into that first half in a relatively good sort of standard and intensity. Cole Palmer, the ball was won by Caicedo on a counter. Ball was given to Cole Palmer to then run all the way up the pitch, completely unmarked, by the way, gave Makers a space, plays a 1-2 with gusto and scores an incredible finish to make it 2-1. And at that point, I thought, game on. The game is on, because we weren't being outplayed at that stage. We just made 2 silly mistakes, which gave Bayern Munich the chances. The difference is, Bayern Munich were a lot more clinical. If you give a team like that chances, they're going to punish you. And we found that out the hard way. And going into the break at half-time, I thought, okay, cool. We've not played poorly. We've had individual errors. We've looked a little bit shaky at the back, but nothing that we're not used to seeing. I didn't think we were poor. I didn't think Bayern Munich had outplayed us at that point. I thought it was a very fair game in that sense. I felt like the game was still on. And as long as we hit the second half, with the right intensity, basically pick up where we left off from the first half, we were due some changes. Neto looked exhausted. Enzo started the game very well, but fizzled out near the end of half time. I thought he could have done with a change. There was a few players I thought, Reece James playing in midfield. We've seen it work. We've seen it not work. I was a bit on the fence with it. I thought that he did very well in spells in that first half, but by the second half, I thought, you could push him to right back, maybe take Gusto off, bring on Esteban on the right, maybe have Palmer switch back into the 10. There was a lot of things that we could have, would have, should have done, but we didn't. And we kept playing with no changes, and a lot of these players were tired, and Bayern Munich really got a second wind and started picking us apart in the second half. And that's where things really opened up, because Chelsea looked like they'd just given up. They were tired, fatigued. They were frustrated that they were playing a team like Bayern Munich who were just, pinging it about and picking us apart every time they went forward. Then the third goal goes in, which is another mistake. A misplaced pass from Gusto, which happens to fall to Harry Kane, one of the most clinical finishers in Europe, if not the world, and he scores a very good goal. The one player I genuinely feel sorry for yesterday, after all the defensive calamities, which were self-inflicted, they weren't even put on by Bayern Munich, other than the first goal, because of the cross being put in, was Robert Sanchez. For me, he played out of his skin. I have publicly said many, many times I'm not a fan of Robert Sanchez, but I'm always fair and I give flowers where it's due. He's been very good and been getting better for months. More solid, less mistakes. Yes, he's not perfect, but he's kicked on. Last night, he was absolutely outstanding. And I will not stand for anyone giving Robert Sanchez any slander for last night's performance, because genuinely, he had nothing to do with those goals that we conceded. I genuinely felt bad for him. He was doing everything right. The sort of saves he was making to keep it at 2 or 3-1 at the time, unreal. And Cole Palmer did have a goal disallowed in injury time, which made it 3-2. It was a cold finish, by the way, but he was offside, and that's unfortunate. I genuinely don't feel like Bayern Munich, second half of the second half, we were tired. After that third goal went in, right, Chelsea looked like they'd given up, and it was like, okay, blow the whistle now, because this is going to be an onslaught. And we did okay, I suppose, in terms of not conceding more than the 3 we had, but we just gave them the goals. And I don't think it's the worst performance I've ever seen. I really don't. I think there are a lot of positives to take from that the fact that we can go toe-to-toe with these clubs. It's just that we need to not make silly mistakes at individual errors, because there are games when we do that, there are games when we don't do that, and when we don't do that, we will typically go on and either get something out of the game or win a game if we perform the way that we did. I had no issue with the lineup or the tactics. It made sense to me at the start of the game, and like I said, the first 20 minutes, I thought we played very, very well, and it made a lot of sense as to why Maresca is set up that way. But there's a lot of people saying that they're disappointed, ashamed, angry, and I get it. I'm frustrated that we lost 3-1 in the way that we did. But I don't feel like we left that park, or left the pitch, being absolutely decimated and, it being such a one-sided game. It could have been more. It could have been 5, 6 or 7 if Sanchez hadn't made some saves, admittedly, because Bayern then also created their own chances. But we gave them 3 goals. We literally gave them 3 goals. And I feel like if you just tie those up in terms of the individual errors, or they don't happen on the night, the game would have been a lot closer, and Chelsea would have been in that for a lot longer. My only criticism is, yes, we should have made changes early, because you could clearly see the likes of Pedro Neto was tired and other players that were a bit fatigued, a bit gassed. Some of them from the get-go. Thought Garnacho was good when he came on. There's a lot to it. And I agree with Maresca. I think that we can be building something special with this team. We do have 7 other games in the Champions League. It's not the end of the world. And some of the reviews, some of the fan debates, the pockets of fans, even on my content, other people's content, they're just thinking it's the end of the world. And we're washed and we're cooked and there's no coming back from this. And players' contracts should be ripped up and Maresca should get sacked. And I just think it's such an overreaction. We played one of the best teams in Europe. Yes, we could have done better. We clearly didn't. We were in that back garden with this team. And we lost. And we lost because of a fault of our own. That was it. Bayern Munich just capitalised because that's what you do at the highest level. When you get them chances, you take them. So I'm disappointed in that sense. But to say that the defence is a problem, we need a centre-back, we need this, we need that, this is where our fan base flip-flops, because let's say we play Man United and we win 3-0, for example. Just as an example, because I know people are feeling quite negative right now, we keep a clean sheet, people will be praising Chalobah and Tosin for the defensive display. But then we go and concede a few goals in a game and maybe lose, which is the first game we've lost in a long, long time, by the way. We've been on a very good run. It's the first loss in like 16 games or something. People are like, yeah, they're not good enough. So I don't know where I sit. I just feel like, yes, it's disappointing that we lost in the way that we did. I agree with what Cole Palmer said. They're not there for a learning curve. They did play well in spells. They broke down Bayern Munich. They created chances. They didn't take the chances. Because just think of it. If Enzo took his chance early on, Palmer then scores, we're the ones that are 2-1. If we didn't make that individual errors, we could have been going in at half-time at 2-0. Football is a funny old sport and anything can happen, right? So I don't think it's as bad as everyone's saying. Yes, it's disappointing to lose in the way that we did, of course. And yes, you have to take on board the negatives of the individual mistakes. But how often is it that we make 3 in a game? The occasion got to them, I feel. I feel like the occasion got to them. The adrenaline wore out midway through the first half. And we were fighting a losing battle from the second half because we just didn't look up for it. And that's when Bayern Munich really picked us apart. They were showing their experience. They were showing their age. They were showing their maturity and their clinicality going forward. So, yeah, it's disappointing to lose in that way. But I genuinely don't think it's the end of the world. And I feel like it is a bit of a reality check for the players being in the Champions League at the highest level of being like, okay, cool, we can't do that again. And look, I've supported Chelsea my entire life. I've seen us have some really poor European performances, but I've also seen us bounce back and perform incredibly well for the rest of the tournament, or go even further than we first expected off the back of that loss. So I agree. I think it's self-inflicted wounds, as I keep saying. Joe Cole said it best. I think it sums up the game completely. I agree with Cole Palmer. I agree with Enzo Maresca in terms of we can be building something special. We did go toe-to-toe with Bayern Munich. They were the better team at the end of the game, but I don't think it's as bad as what everyone makes out. That's just my thoughts and opinions on the game, though. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding what Cole Palmer and Enzo Maresca said. Just quickly on the tar red card. Yes, I've seen them given. Yes, we've seen them missed. I don't know. It's annoying when you're on the receiving end and nothing gets done. And it's also annoying when you're on the receiving end when something gets done. It's one of those things. It was either going to be given or it wasn't. The fact it wasn't even looked at, just the officiating was all over the shot last night. And I don't want to be the one to blame officiating because I've always said that it's just shocking anywhere you go. If you're having to rely on the referee, you're doing something wrong because your performance should speak for itself, in my opinion. But again, I'd love to know your thoughts down below regarding your thoughts on the game, where you think it went well, where you think it went wrong, and what these guys have been saying about the game. Mike Keegan has reported that Chelsea's Chief Revenue Officer, Kasper Steirsveg, I think that's how you pronounce it, apologies if it's wrong, has departed Stamford Bridge less than 2 years into the role, with the club still without a shirt sponsor. The report continues to say that Chelsea are thought to have had offers for shirt sponsorship, but none have resulted in a deal. The club have reportedly looking for between 60 and 65 million a season, with new Saudi airline Riyadh Air strongly linked. I find this absolutely baffling, and I'm sure that you guys do too. This guy was brought in as a revenue officer, and the biggest revenue that we're missing is sponsorship on the front of the shirt. Now, the board and the owners have been very, very vocal, saying, look, we're going to hold off until we're in a healthy position to go get 60 to 65 million pounds a season for a long-term sponsorship, right? They've been very vocal about that. We all are well aware of this, and we've been all asking, where's this front of shirt sponsorship? We're champions of the world now. This should be relatively easy to get over the line. We've had loads of sponsors throwing themselves at us. Why has there not been a deal that's materialised? Now, there's either two things. Either Chelsea are asking for too much money, and all of the people coming in don't want to pay 60 to 65 million. Valid. Negotiations need to continue then, and we need to find amicable common ground. Or two, Kasper ain't doing his job. And it looks like Kasper isn't doing his job, because Chelsea have had offers. It says that we've had offers. No doubt we've had offers, especially being the champions of the world for the next 4 years. A lot of these front of shirt sponsors are going to look at that and go, we can be associated with the champions of the world for the next 4 years. They're in the Champions League, the champions of the world. The advertising on that's going to be wild. You know, we can part with that money because we're going to make it tenfold in sort of, you know, ROI, essentially, return on investment. Even if they don't, it's good exposure, right, for the brand that is going to be plastered on the front of our shirt. We're a big, big institution at this point. We have been for a long time. So this just baffles me. If you've hired someone in, you've given them 2 years to secure something, and they still can't, I'm not surprised that you have been sacked. See you later, Mr. Casper. I can't pronounce your last name and I don't want to make an idiot of myself, so I apologise. Casper's been kicked out the door for not securing a shirt sponsor. So my question is, what is next? Do the owners take over? Do you have Egg Barley trying to negotiate things? Do you have Todd Bowley trying to negotiate things? It's not the sporting director's job. They could barely do their job as it is. We praise them for doing well. We criticise them for when they don't do well, right? But let's be real. They're doing their job. And look, for a lot of people, they need to go. For some people, they're on thin ice. It is what it is. So what, do we then go recruit another financial chief officer or whatever it's called and try and secure a deal? Like, this is just becoming a bit silly at this point. How Chelsea don't have a front of shirt sponsor. Now, there are a lot of fans who say that they don't want a sponsor because the shirt looks a lot cleaner. And I get it. From an aesthetics, I do like the clean shirts. I think they do look very sharp. However, it's missing revenue. Think of the money we've generated over the summer by winning the Club World Cup, with the transfers out, etc. All of that accumulated into a pot. It was like £500 million nearly. It's a wild amount of money. But then think that Chelsea are doing well sustainably in terms of the money side of things without a front of shirt sponsor. We've had loads of sleeve sponsors. We had a temporary sponsor in Damac. Can't be that hard to secure a sponsorship if we managed to do that for 7 games and make like 7 or 8 million off of it or something. And Damac are now cemented in Chelsea's history by when we won the Conference League. Their shirt sponsors plastered all over that. So they're going to be over the moon with that. Cemented into history. So I don't understand how we can't secure a front of shirt sponsor. Why are we struggling with this? This is a simple thing that happens for a lot of clubs. They secure that. Maybe Chelsea being too greedy. Maybe we're asking for too much money. Maybe we need to reduce the expectations. Maybe that's what it is. I genuinely don't know. But at this point, it is just becoming really frustrating that we still don't have a front of shirt sponsor after all this time. We've had lots of people interested. Riyadh Air. There was another airlines. Apple, Microsoft. There's loads that have been thrown around. There was meant to be the whole Air Jordan thing that fell out because they wanted Champions League football, like Champions League teams, and we weren't at that stage. Fair enough. I don't think that's going to happen again because Nike are the manufacturer. I just find it baffling how Chelsea can't secure a front of shirt sponsor. So I'm not surprised that Casper's been booted, because if he's not been able to do one with the circumstances and the position that Chelsea are in right now, then he's never going to secure one at the right price, right? So I'm very curious to know your thoughts. I know there's not really a lot about this, but I thought it was just an interesting update because it's a bit of news that hit yesterday after yesterday's video was uploaded about the fact that we're still looking for a front of shirt sponsor. We can't get it over the line, but don't worry, we've got a new sleeve sponsor. And the person in charge of that, the revenue officer, is gone. So, yeah, I suppose we hire a new revenue officer, give him the sort of memo and go, right, that's your job, go do it. Because it'd be very interesting if we do hire one and they secure a shirt sponsor for the right money almost instantaneously. Because at this point, when are we going to get one? I know it's long term, so it doesn't really matter, but you've got a lot of fans that still haven't bought their kits because they're waiting for the front of shirt sponsor. And if it's just left in limbo, we're going to have a new kit next season. So, there's just lots of little things and bigger picture. An extra 60 to 65 million pounds a year in revenue is huge. Now, it might be one of the biggest in terms of the league or European football or world football. I don't know. And it could be the fact that we need to reduce our asking price. But if we can secure that, which I think we can with the club that we are and, the TV rights and all the exposure these brands are going to get, it's going to be huge for all parties. Great for our PSR because it's an extra revenue source we're currently not getting. But hey, I'm going to stop waffling about it because it spins my head. It really does. I don't understand how a club like Chelsea is struggling to secure a front of shirt sponsor. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding the whole saga. It's just a mess. But what do you think the outcome is? Do you think that the right thing was getting rid of Casper, getting someone else in? Do you think Chelsea are asking for way too much money? What would you do if you were in the position of trying to secure a new shirt sponsor for Chelsea? Mark Ogden has reported the Professional Footballers Association, the PFA, are monitoring Chelsea's treatment of Raheem Sterling and Axel Disasi. He goes on to say that Sterling and Disasi have also been giving designated coaches to ensure that they will be able to secure a move away from Chelsea when the January transfer window reopens. ESPN have reported that sources have said that Chelsea and the PFA are now working together to ensure that Disasi and Sterling are able to train properly and also given game time at the club's Cobham training ground. Now, I just thought this was very interesting, wanted to bring this up because I don't think that Chelsea are necessarily mistreating these players. Obviously, we know we have the whole bomb squad that people like, people don't like in terms of the term. I'm not a big fan of it. And we have really culled that down in terms of players that are remaining on that list. And Disasi and Sterling being those two main players on this list. Sterling's been putting on Instagram recently that he's training late at night or he's training at different times. And look, they're being very professional from what we can see and what we know through the public lens. They're being professional, they're turning up, they're doing their training, they're doing what's being required of them. Maresca said that there's no way that they can get back into the squad, they're not part of the plans. Fair enough. So I find it interesting that PFA, and I suppose they're doing their due diligence, have come in and just making sure that Chelsea aren't doing anything they shouldn't be, or they're making sure that the standards are met in terms of the PFA, because obviously they're like a union, players' union really, to make sure the players are getting the best that they can. I have no doubt that Chelsea are giving them everything that they need. They're just not training with the first team. They're not involved in the first team plans. And I tell you what, they're now working together to make sure they can get a move in January. Thank you. Thank you. Because Chelsea have been trying to get them to leave all summer and couldn't. So I'm hoping that when we have this sort of mediator to help, we can help secure a move for someone like Raheem Sterling, who's just adamant he doesn't want to move. Doesn't want to move his family. He wants to stay in London. Doesn't want to accept any offers that are coming in around the world or even in London. That seems to be a bigger issue between club and player. Now, I've spoken on this before. I completely understand where the club's coming from. I completely understand where Sterling's coming from, on a personal side. I get it. Right? I've just recently up and moved my entire family to a different country. It's a lot. It's hard. I wouldn't want to now do that in a year's time. I want to settle, right? We all do. So I kind of get that. But having this mediator, they might be able to come in and say, look, actually, we need to find you a move. You need to be moved on now. It's best for all parties. You still want to be playing football, etc. So that would be quite interesting to see what happens. In terms of Axel Disasi, he had a lot of interest over the summer, but nothing really materialised. And that could have been Chelsea being greedy in terms of wanting too much money, or Disasi saying, I don't want to go here, I don't want to go there, and I prefer a permanent move rather than a loan, blah, 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 blah. So again, it'd be very interesting to see how this develops. But me personally, from what we can see so far from the public lens, which is a very small lens, by the way, it doesn't seem like Chelsea are doing anything wrong. And it seems like a due diligence check from the PFA, which I'm grateful that they're doing, to be honest. It means that they're doing their job. They're not there just for the Writers' Award and Association Awards and all that they do at the end of the year. You don't really hear from the PFA, if I'm being honest. But they're doing their welfare checks on the players. And I'm pretty sure they probably do this across the board with other teams. But obviously the spotlight's on Chelsea because we have the bomb squad, etc. And it's more apparent there are certain players that are kind of exiled and doing their own thing. But I like the fact that they've got their own coaches, they're going to have set routines, regimes, and they're being worked on to get moves away. I think this is probably the best thing that could happen for player and club. But I just thought it was very interesting. I wanted to bring it to your attention and kind of speak about it and ask your opinions down below. Do you feel like Chelsea are doing the right thing in terms of like legal requirements to make sure they can train, have the facilities, and try and facilitate a move in January? Do you feel like the PFA and these mediators that can help with this move are going to help? Do you think it's going to be the best decision to kind of bring them in and let them do their job? What do you think the outcome is going to be? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. News Arkansilla has reported that Jose Mourinho could be back at Stamford Bridge on the 30th of September. He is considering becoming Bruno Liège's replacement at Benfica. Now that news was confirmed. He is the Benfica manager, and after the Bayern Munich game, Bobby Vincent asked Enzo Maresca what he feels about coming up against Mourinho, and he said absolutely yes. He is a legend for the club, but a legend in general for his trophies and achievements. We will always welcome Jose back with open arms. And it's going to be a very weird, but hopefully nice occasion to see Mourinho back at the Bridge. It's always a nice occasion, whether he is in our dugout or in the opposing dugouts, and we win. That's basically it. If we can beat Benfica, we won't care about his return in terms of him being there. If we lose to Jose, Chelsea fans are always going to have a soft spot for him. I have a soft spot for him. This guy's an absolute legend, transformed our club. It's as simple as that. It's going to be nice seeing him in and around the setting. He loves the club. He said it for many, many years after not being with us. He's been with us 3 times, which is wild. I had some fans on my live watch along on TikTok last night saying we should get Jose back, even though he's just signed for Benfica. And I'm like, that ship has sailed and sunk. Like, it's just not going to happen again, right? But yeah, it'd be really, really nice to see Jose Mourinho back. And I like the fact that Enzo Maresca has acknowledged Mourinho, saying he's a legend of the club. I mean, how could you not, being in and around Chelsea? He is everywhere around that club, if that makes sense. And obviously part of our history, massive part of our history, on multiple occasions as well. And also said in general, Jose Mourinho is a serial winner. He just is. You look at his managerial career and the sort of trophies he's won, it's absolutely exceptional. So it'll be a very nice, I'm hoping it'll be a very nice reception for Jose in terms of him being at the club on the 30th of September when we do play Benfica. But I'm also hoping that we absolutely crush Benfica because we have a bit of history with them in terms of European nights. And Chelsea normally come out on top. You know, you've got the Europa League final, you've got the Champions League 2012 run the year before. I think it was in the quarters to go through. We've got a bit of a history with Benfica coming to Chelsea or going to their place. It's always been a tough game. Even in the Europa League, I think we played them earlier before the final, earlier on in the stages at their place, and I think it was a draw. David Luiz goal. Could have been another season, to be fair, but again, we have history with them. Not that it's a derby or anything, but we want to see Chelsea go on and do as much as do the best we can in this competition, regardless if Jose is at the helm or not. It will be nice to see him back. We will welcome him with open arms, as we would with any manager that has the sort of legacy that Mourinho does. But on the night, business means business, and we want to put his team to bed, and we want to get the result. I know it seems a long way away off the back of last night's defeat, but there are a lot of games in a short space of time between now and then. It's literally, like 11, 12 days time, and we've got a few games in between. So I'm looking forward to seeing Mourinho back. I think it's going to be really nice, and from the emotional side. But like I said, I hope we crush Benfica on the 30th of September. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Jose coming to the bridge. The King returns 30th of September. Can Enzo Maresca out-tactic him? Can we outplay his team? Can we get the result? And still not using the bitterness of last night's defeat, rational thinking here. Do you think that we can outsmart Jose Mourinho, or do you think he's going to come to the bridge and steal the points from us, and it's going to be a horrendous reunion of the King returning to the bridge? Very curious to know your thoughts. And that's the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that, you're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.